Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'al li waziran min ahli Haruna akhi washdud bihi azri washkur fi amri kay nusabbihaka kaseera wa nazkuraka kaseera innaka kunta bina basira. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome friends, inshallah we will continue with the words, the 20th word, second station, page 272 in the book The Words. So last time we were discussing about the prophetic miracles in the last few sessions, how it encourages human beings. All the miracles that are mentioned in the Quran can be seen as something that human beings can benefit, learn from, and make progress in their living. But of course, bearing in mind that all this is happening by the order which belongs to God, by His will, His order, His choice, His blessings, His benevolence, His mercy. And also we touched upon the miracle of Adam. The author mentioned the verse where it was said that God taught Adam all the names of God. We discussed what that means as well, how in the universe we are able to, with the qualities, human senses, feelings, intelligence, reasoning, we are able to decipher the meaning behind each and everything. But we have to study and pay attention to use our consciousness to look at things when we interact with the universe. And we saw the example, the all-wise Quran, the supreme miracle of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who is raising his finger. So briefly, we kind of touched upon this last time. But if anybody had any comments or questions on this particular section, you can please go ahead. Pre-eternal miracle proves all man jinn. So I like this part of the arousing the eagerness in everyone to benefit from all the verses or whatever we see in the universe, how things are coming into existence. Everybody can benefit from it. And of course, the message that he brings, Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to human being, in terms of the Quran being the miraculous aspect of it, tells us who all this creation belongs to. It ties the universe to my feelings and to what the verses, the universe and my feelings all converge at one point. So we'll continue with in brief. So the miracles of the other prophets, peace be upon them, all indicate a wonder of human art or craft. And Adam's, peace be upon him, miracle indicates in concise form, besides the basis of those crafts, the index of the sciences and branches of knowledge and of the wonders and perfections. So the miracles of other prophets, peace be upon them all, indicate a wonder of human art or craft. Adam's, peace be upon his miracle, indicates in concise form, besides the basis of those crafts, so basically knowing all the names, so all those arts and crafts, what do they point to that forms the basis of those crafts? The index of the sciences and branches of knowledge, and of the wonders and perfections, and urges man towards those wonders and perfections. As for the Quran of miraculous exposition, the supreme miracle of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, since it shows in detail the reality of the teaching of the names, shows in detail the reality of the teachings of the names. It points clearly to the true goal of the sciences, and the branches of knowledge, which are truth and reality, as well as the perfections, attainments, and happiness of this world and the next. With truly powerful encouragement, it urges man towards them. It encourages and urges in a such way, it says, so before we go in what ways, how it says, let's go over this paragraph in brief to understand what the author is talking about. So from what I understand, so the Adam's miracle, as he says, is like the father of all the miracles, I would say. Because all the other prophets, for example, we study Jesus in terms of his healing, Solomon commanding the air, and Moses striking the rock, and there were some other miracles that I recall we discussed in this. So each prophet had their particular craft and art that they focused on. So iron, and to be able to handle iron, or to be able to control the air. All those miracles that we saw tells us things in creation to investigate the order, and we can find that there are ways to find a cure, for example, as Jesus was doing, to control the air to some aspects, just like the air turbines, airplanes, many things that are using air, rocks and minerals that we mine a lot of from the mountains, a lot of things, and use them. But Adam's miracle, he says, is the basis of those crafts. Finds out the qualities, the names, as much as we can. And the index of the sciences and branches of knowledge. So whatever the sciences, whatever the disciplines, it keeps increasing every few years. There are more disciplines that have been added as we discover more and more, so that fine tunes the discipline into various different smaller aspects of, as we see in the university courses that keep increasing every year. And the branches of knowledge, so we can keep going on studying and investigating the universe, but they all point to the wonders and perfections which the names, or the basis of those, this forms the basis, and urges man towards them, to all those qualities that we are encountering from those arts and crafts, or whatever we are experiencing. So I see Adam's miracle as like the grandfather of them all, but you can correct me if anybody thinks, but that's the impression I got, that all the miracles of other prophets indicate human art or craft, and Adam's forms the basis of those crafts and the index of science and branches of knowledge. And of course, all those miracles, including the other prophets and Adam's, urges man towards those perfections and wonders. So it prompts man, it urges man, pushes him. And same thing for the Quran of miraculous exposition, which is the supreme miracle of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, which shows in detail the reality of the teaching of the names. So it tells who those qualities point to, tells the reality of those, whatever the names or qualities that I'm studying through the sciences and knowledge that I'm gaining must point to his names. So it points clearly to the true goal of the sciences and branches of knowledge, which are truth and reality, as well as the perfections, attainments, and happiness of this world and the next. So when we discover things, we are very pleased, we are happy. So in this world, but then we know who is behind this, what's the base of this, who's the owner of this, and then our hereafter also, we are pleased with that as well. So with this, all this discovery, studying, sciences, knowledge, perfections, wonders, encourages human beings, and of course the Quran encourages such activities. It urges man towards them. So Brother Ali, go ahead, please.
What I understood in brief, that is exactly the text says in brief. It is a very brief way of explaining the mission of prophets as far as their practical, exemplary miracles are concerned. It's very interesting, I found. I'm not going to say anything new which is not mentioned. You touched upon all of them, but I will categorize it first. Adam is the index of the book. It means human book. All my human qualities. You emphasized on it. You emphasize on everything, actually. But I'm categorizing it to keep in my mind. So the prophetic miracles, the chain of the prophetic miracles start with Adam, but it is the index. It has everything in it, but in the form of an index, not explained in the rest of the book. Now, each chapter dealing the content of this index is represented and practiced as far as the world organization of the world life is concerned, not fundamental belief system that is always universal, but practical examples that we hear from the miracles of the prophets mentioned in the Quran. Only we are talking, I remember talking about this matter, emphasizing the importance of it. These miracles, the explanation of these miracles are related only to those who are which are mentioned in the Quran. Those which are not mentioned in the Quran is different. If it is about other prophets, may be true, may not be true, because it is coming from other sources, not the Quran. And these sources, as the Quran says, not reliable. So we don't take notes of them, only those mentioned in the Quran, and put in the category of each prophet's miracle, how we should understand it as the section we are reading presents to us. We have to understand in this way. But again, we should never forget the miracles are not concerned. The miracles are to be applied here, etc., not related to any miracle narrations from anybody, including the Prophet Muhammad. These are different. Now, those miracles narrated from the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, are historically, not 100%, nothing can be possible in this world 100%, but reliable. So we should understand as science to the claim of Muhammad as to be the messenger of God. But we don't have to. For example, there are various narrations mentioned here in the narration that, for example, from his hand a river run, a small, not creek, run. But it doesn't mean that we can apply it to our life. But that is the miracle mentioned to be utilized in order to confirm that, yeah, Muhammad ﷺ was really employed by the one who created or organized the order of this universe. But how about the miracles mentioned in the Quran about Jesus? Yeah, you can put it in the category that this section of the book we are reading deals with. It means we have to see which kind of encouragement we are given here. In the narrations of the, apart from the Quran, Muhammad ﷺ's narrations of the other miracles are not to be practiced by us. Find out within the order of the universe that there must be a way that my hands will be the fountain head of a river. I don't understand this. I don't think so. Then I'm not looking for it as well. The purpose of the Prophet Muhammad's the narrations of the Prophet Muhammad's miracles are for his own claim to be the messenger of God. That is emphasized on many times, and inshallah this will be the last time. We have to bear in mind not to confuse this point. So Adam is the index. Each chapter of the book, as far as, again, not iman, yaqeen, certainty of one's belief, one's conclusion is concerned, no. Organizing my life and interacting with the order of the universe gives me the direction, says, come on, find out. It is available within the order of my creation. To find out more means to find out the manifestations of the qualities of the Creator in a deeper way. That is why prophetic miracles are mentioned in the Quran, because I'm not observing that Jesus cured the blind and temporarily gave or returned the life of a dead according to our understanding. Dead, I've seen in a hospital, somebody was dead and doctor came, did something, it turned back to life. I experienced it when I was in a hospital. So long ago, but I did. According to us, the man was dead. But doctor tried something, the man started breathing. So it means this kind of techniques are available within the order of the universe. Now, that is understood as well. Each prophet is a section of the manifestation of the index that human quality, different manifestations of the quality, creator's qualities are demonstrated within the order of the universe in each of the prophetic miracles mentioned in the Quran. That is emphasized, mentioned in the Quran. Now, that is different. How about the Prophet Muhammad's miracles mentioned in the Quran? None. Wow. Yeah, I don't remember that. Does anybody remember any miracle that the Prophet mentioned? Don't confuse this Shaka Kamer is just a sign of the hereafter, but in the narration outside of the Quran is narrated as the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But Shakka Qamar is not mentioned in the Quran as the miracle of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. We should not confuse it. I don't know, is there any miracle mentioned in the Quran related to Prophet Muhammad? That is why it is, sorry,
Yes.
yeah, so when Quran, excuse me, let me see that accordingly we will continue. Within Quran, no specific mention of, no specific mention of Muhammad's miracle, at least from what I remember. Yeah, that is what I remember as well, but sharing your information about it is somehow, but as far as I remember, no mention, there's nothing. But it is common among the believers of the Quran, believers in the Quran, Quran is the miracle. Wow, that is really correct. Why? It is beautifully explained. That I loved it. I really love this understanding and makes sense to me. This one, Quran, what the Quran does. For the Quran of miraculous exposition, the supreme miracle of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, this is the Quran, since it shows in detail the reality of the teaching of the names, it points clearly to the true goal of the sciences and branches of knowledge, which are true and reality, as well as the perfections, attainments, and happiness of this world and the next. Now, the key point here, goal of the true goal of the sciences. I think this one needs to be really highlighted. The true goal. Why? Because it is going to tie up the beginning ring of the chain of the prophethood with the last chain of the last ring of the chain of the prophet, and the lock will be put on it. So that is done. Revelation is done, completed. That is why first is the index, last is the goal of this index. Not the details of. Details are mentioned, if you like, using the same analogy of the book, the chapters. So one is completely index form, not detailed, explained at all. The other one is not put into practice, but showed the goal of these miracles, or miracles means really, as far as our study is concerned, how am I going to see them really included in the order of the universe? Yes, you can study, do research into the order of the universe, but what are you going to do with the things that you found out? The goal of this study will be tie up to the names that human beings are told in their nature, represented by Adam. So Adam is told all the names which are manifested in the universe. So we have the names of God, the Creator. So science must find out. Inshallah it will. Inshallah it will. I'm very hopeful. The manifestations of the names of the Creator as they find out any new quality of the order of the universe, new thing manifesting itself that we didn't know before. So, which name? Every scientific discovery, they call it the principle or law or nature, whatever they call it nowadays. But we know that there is a big political stratagem going on there. That is why the believers cannot speak freely, although everybody thinks that we are free. Democracy, everybody can say anything. Yeah, yeah. For example,
referring to the academic world?
yes, yes. Oh, of course, they are studying it. I'm not studying. You know, I mentioned maybe a few years ago, at least 1 year ago, a Chinese biologist came to America. It really happened. It's not a story. It really happened. He found out in his research the fossils of in the ocean, Indian Ocean, the fossils of something thousands and millions years ago, millions, not thousands is nothing, millions years ago, creatures. He said, no, we can find only one type of fossil, not in between. Perfect creatures that we are experiencing, seeing now, if they have not extinguished. Nothing else. So there is no evolution. And he published a paper in China, in Chinese language. Maybe I'm not sure about it. Maybe English as well, because most of the scientific journals are published in English. Maybe, I don't know. But the man came here and he presented that it is impossible. That is why I published there in China. And I demonstrated there is no in-between fossil. I mean, from one stage and changing in the course of millions of years and becoming a fish, becoming bird. There is no fossil. There is fish fossils, there is bird fossils, as we are seeing now. No in between. What are you talking about? And American scientists asked, did you publish it in a scientific journal? Yes, I did. It is published in China. How? We know that it infers that there is a special creation. It means God created the universe. Man, you cannot make up saying that it developed by itself. It's impossible. There is no fossil evidence. What are you talking about? And they say, yes, but gentlemen, scientists, be careful. There is a difference between China and America. In America, you can criticize the president, even really insult him. No one cares, but you cannot criticize the taboo of evolution. You have to follow this taboo. How do you do that? Are you not free, man? In China, we cannot criticize the administration at all, even one single word. You will find ourselves in prison. But we can tell what we believe freely, scientific discoveries, not like you. That is the difference. Why is it important? Why it was so striking for me that I never forget? I see this video, I mean, a few years ago, I said, Alhamdulillah, that is what I believe and I can see, and this man proved it to be. There is a scientific terrorism in the so-called free democratic countries, and administrative and political terrorism in China. Well, what we are not aware, we think that the Chinese people are slaves of the state. Yes, administratively, yes. But publishing the scientific discoveries, no. Here is just the reverse. We should never ever forget this, because when we see that there is no scientist saying that evolution is just a mystery, just a myth, M-I-T-H, no, has no reality at all. Why don't they say they can't? It's a free country. They can't. That's what we have to understand. And we shouldn't be really slaves of this terrorism, despotism in scientific field. That is what the Quran does. Yes, you have to do it. That is why I created you with this capacity now. And you have to really discover all the miracles I mentioned in the Quran and their reality, their truth, and the perfections only after you understand and connect it to your quality, which is given to you in your existence, original existence, as the name, as the tool of recognizing the names of Creator. Adam's miracles is connected with the Quranic, the miracles of the Quran. And this is the only way, as Asim highlighted, this is the only way to get happiness in this world and the next. Fulfill the purpose of your existence. That is amazing. It's very, very interesting summary that we hear it. I challenge you. You cannot find this explanation in another way. That is a blessing of Allah to us. We have to be thankful that we have these sources available under our hand. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Anybody would like to share any reflections? Before we move on to the next paragraph. All right. Oh man, in the face of manifestations of dominicality, the elevated purpose of the universe, is man's universal worship and submission to God. While his furthest aim is to attain to that worship by means of those sciences and perfections. So in the face of the manifestations, of the experiences in this universe, the experiments I do, the learning I do, the things I see going on, studying them, investigating them. So the elevated purpose of this universe is man's universal worship and submission to God. So that's the main point, the highest purpose. And while his furthest aim, so his furthest aim is to attain to that worship. So I can only attain to such universal worship and submission of God by means of those sciences and perfections. So I have to go through investigating, questioning, wondering about things doing experiments, trial and error, learn what's the order saying, but then realize, I mean, that is also part of my worship, knowing that the sciences and perfections, as we discussed above in the previous paragraph, that all the science and branches, which are the truth and reality, perfection, attainments, happiness of this world and the next, knowing who the owner behind them is by his qualities. So at the end of time, mankind will spill into science and learning. It will obtain all its strength from science. Power and rule will pass to the hand of science. So where is this getting from? Like it is, so O man is in quotes. O man, in the face of manifestations of dominicality, the elevated purpose of the universe is man's universal worship and submission to God, while his furthest aim is to attain to that worship by means of those sciences and perfections. In stating this, it hints that at the end of time, mankind will spill into science and learning and will obtain all its strength from science. So the power and rule will pass to the hand of science. As we see nowadays.
That is interesting, isn't it? 90 years ago, the author wrote this. 90 years ago. Now we see how reality it is and how fast and speedy this reality is appearing to be the dominant power in the universe, in the world. It's amazing, really. Far-sighted, mashallah.
I'm amazed at his time, how he was able to see kind of what the world is going to be like going forward. So we rely on science most nowadays, that's the claim. And all the perfections, attainments, happiness is given to as the courtesy of science rather than all the qualities that are within those sciences. Any other comments by anyone? All right, so also, since the Quran of miraculous exposition repeatedly puts forward its eloquence and beauty of expression, by allusion it says, at the end of time, eloquence and beauty of expression, the most brilliant of the sciences and branches of knowledge, will be most sought after in all their varieties. So eloquence and the beauty of expression, even in order to make one another accept their ideas, even in order to make one another accept their ideas and carry out their word, men will find their most effective weapon in eloquent expression, and their most irresistible force in fine oratory. So how the ideas are presented is the most effective weapon these days, or going forward as well. Eloquence and the beauty of expression. So we know historically at the time of when the Quran was revealed, the oratory nature of the culture over there, where the prophets were the poets of that time, with the eloquence and beauty of expression. And again, here also, I think it is something significant the eloquence and beauty of expression, but I think this author is saying it is going to be something that is very sought after in all their varieties. So all whatever the ideas that are carried out in word by man, that's an example of even in the order of the things in the world that we discuss, we talk about. The eloquent expression is necessary. But the universe also is a beautiful and eloquent expression that we see, which we have to realize and look into. Any comment on this paragraph by anyone? Brother Ali, go ahead.
I think we are seeing nowadays this eloquent expression is presented through not the literature that used to be the most effective and widely read books, but films, movies, videos, short, concise, not like me presenting one idea in an hour and a half. No, very concise, attractive way, and something nowadays visually available. We have to work on it. We shouldn't waste our time. That we have to really educate our new generation in film making, video making, script writing, short, or this kind of areas. So this is the most effective. For example, I have never read and I have never paid any attention, but I understand that people are wondering about this Harry Potter or something. I never read them, but I know that it is almost read by many people, millions of, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I thought more than 1 million copies are sold. And also, I don't know whether they made movie out of it. Something attractive for human beings. Meaningful or not, that is something else. But something beautiful. You can watch the movies. It's the movies you mean, Fariha?
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
So, did they make a movie out of this book?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Series, the whole series.
Series. No, what was it? Something interesting for human beings. But do they have any truth? I don't know. If anybody read or watched the movie, they can say something. Yeah, billions of dollars made. It is all fantasy. So, yeah. Yeah, even the Star. Once I heard the news, the Star Wars 4 or something, I mean, there are series also, was sold $4 billion. Oh, 4 billion, even there was a small joke on it, 4 billion something $100 million. And the 4 billion, okay, but what is the small 800 or no 100, 200 million dollars? It's nothing to billion, next to billions, but that was a joke. I was so shocked. And I understand those famous films now, they are spending at least billions. Not million, no, not million is not now, is enough now. What do they do to make it more eloquent, to attract the attention of the audience? Well, that is something we have to wake up. We have to wake up. The world is changing, and I don't know what to do, to be frank. I don't have any solution. I have no talent at all. Eloquent speech, something don't mention about me. I'm not there at all. But this is true. What the text says is true. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it is very interesting how the world is changing. Nowadays, also the artificial intelligence, they call it, the metaverse is another thing that's coming. Digital art is taking the attention of many people. A lot of money also there being spent and made by many people. But of course, that's another way of eloquent expression. I don't know how the real art versus digital art makes a difference, but it's changing very rapidly. All right. In short, most of the Quran's verses are keys to a treasury of perfections and guides to a store of knowledge. Keys to a treasury of perfection and guides to a store of knowledge. So it tells me about who my Lord is, who I am, tells me who the owner of this universe is, what is my future, where am I going, all the questions, human questions that bother me, I get the keys to the treasury of those answers in them. If you wish, you may reach up to the skies of the Quran and the stars of its verses by making the previous 20 words a stairway of 20 steps. So references to his previous books. Through them, you will see what a brilliant sun is the Quran. See how it sprinkles a pure light over the divine truths. Sprinkles a pure light over the divine truths and the truths of the contingent realm. Everything in this universe, including my being, contingent realm. See what a brilliant effulgence the Quran spreads. All right, conclusion. Since together with alluding to the wonders of present-day human progress, all the verses about the prophets are also in a style which as though infers and traces their limits in the future. All the verses about the prophets are also in a style which as though infers and traces their limits in the future. As we have been studying in the last few sessions about how each miracles and verses about the prophets tells me what I can take as a model and follow and encourages me to go and investigate in the universe as well. And since it is certain that all the verses point to numerous meanings, so the verses that are mentioned in the Quran, of course, have to be interpreted, and there are many meanings within the fundamentals of the teachings of the Quran that we have to interpret them. The muhkamat, as the Quran says, so all those interpretations, numerous meanings, must be according to the fundamentals. Indeed, it is unanimously agreed upon, and since there are categorical commands to follow and obey the prophets, since there are categorical commands to follow and obey the prophets in the Quran, which says follow the prophet, what he brings, the message that he brings, then together with the explicit meanings of the above verses, it may be said that they indicate in allusive fashion the importance of man's arts and sciences. They indicate in allusive fashion the importance of man's arts and sciences, and urges him towards them. So the conclusion basically on what we have been discussing on the verses, which mention the miracles of the prophets, which encourage us as well to look for the order in the universe, to investigate, to study in the arts and sciences. And of course, some things we may have seen that are being in progress, some are still need to be discovered, but it traces their limits in the future. And of course, these verses also kind of have the categorical commands to follow and obey the prophets. So I can follow their example as well and the message that they tell me as a role model, the model that they set up for me. So of course, for example, Jesus was not really employed to perform miracles to heal people. So I have to follow him as a doctor or a healer, but also he's conveying the message that this is from your Lord. All this sickness, this healing, this conditions, it's all from your Lord. So through this, take me seriously and recognize your Lord. But Brother Lee, go ahead, please.
We don't have much time, but we have 4 minutes only. Let me keep it short. We may be careful that this text is not encouraging me and you to study sciences, but definitely not discouraging, that's for sure. But as a student of the Quran, I have to educate myself. Where? To learn the fundamental teachings of the Quran concerning belief aspect of it, so that I will be aware of the goal of the sciences, scientific researches, and I will be teaching this, or learning and teaching, of course, these goals that the Quran points out, to find out the source of existence of my human qualities, which are nothing but the qualities given to the Prophet Adam, represented in my practical life. And then I have to use it as a tool to understand God. The means of this tool, how, the stars, sky of the Quran, or use each of them really demonstrates that each branch of science demonstrates one hidden manifestation of the qualities of the Creator, and the purpose is to acknowledge it, to worship Him alone, not the matter, not the success you had in your scientific research, but what it demonstrates to me, which is the qualities manifested in them of their Creator. So we have to, because if we don't really educate ourselves that the universe, whatever the universe has now, so far a lot of things have been discovered. What do they point to? That is, I have to use it and give a heads up, if you like, give a heads up for the future scientific researchers, so that they will, those people who study science, which everybody is interested in science nowadays, so who study sciences, they will know what their mission is. Otherwise, they will discover and become materialist people. For example, there was a very, very widespread movement in Turkey, and the leader of this movement, without realizing this delicate point, encouraged the young people to study sciences. What happened? These people, most of these people who study sciences, because they didn't know Quranic training, they didn't receive Quranic training and learned that everything in the universe is nothing but the manifestations of God. It needs a huge training, education. He didn't give this education, encourage people. I am really seriously observing the result. A lot of brilliant, bright students now are atheists, although they follow the religious leader. I understood that, yes, science must be learned and studied, but in order to fulfill, we have to fulfill the purpose of studying the science, we have to get the Quranic education. If those people who study the sciences, if they didn't get the Quranic education, belief education that we are emphasizing in this class, in this room, belief education, their work will be in the name of materialist philosophy, materialist, naturalist philosophy. So we are not going to encourage people to study materialism, naturalism. We are going to encourage people, first of all, to learn what is the purpose of existence of this universe, what is the purpose of existence of human being. That must have the priority. And then scientific researchers will be really fulfilling their mission by obeying the goal of the Quran. That we learn the goal of the Quran is really to get to know who my creator is, who the creator of this universe is. So we should be careful what is the fundamental matter is, what the fundamental matter is. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. So we should not be carried away by the language of the scientific rhetoric language. And it has to go hand in hand with questioning and reasoning, wondering about it, getting the actual message.
Nowadays, science is abused, of course.
Yes. Correct. Thank you so much. All right. So before I stop here, there was a comment I saw from Suhail. Yes, he was mentioning about the eloquent expressions about the shows and movies that has been as a medium of to attract people these days. A lot of things are grabbing people's attentions. Correct. Thank you for sharing that as well. So inshallah, we will continue next time with the two important answers to two important questions. I will stop here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka anta alimul hakim wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen bi hurmati sirrati surati al-Fatiha.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, everyone.